Thank you very much. Essentially, this is amending Section 18 of the bill, which appears on page, page 7, no, page 8. Around the Science Advisory Panel. Now, as it stands now, all the legislation says, and therefore all the government is obligated to do, is appoint a science panel, that the agency would appoint a science panel consisting of not more than 8 members, and that it would, the science panel's mandate is to review the scientific basis. And the agency may set expenses. And that's not good enough for me. I think it's really important that we have scientists on a science panel. So my amendment is adding to the Section 18 by saying that the Science Advisory Panel shall be composed of members qualified in the field of environmental science, designated by the Board of Directors, taking into account the scientific experience required by the Science Advisory Panel to assist the agency in its areas of activity. And more than that, I think it's really important, and I ask it of every committee that I sit on, that anyone is able to find out how a committee or a panel arrived at its decision. Therefore, any documents and, in fact, the advice itself or the recommendations should appear on public websites. So the second part of the amendment says that the advice of the Science Advisory Panel shall be published immediately on the agency's public website. The wording for the first section I took directly out of the EU Environmental Monitoring Committee and the wording for setting it up, which uses that same language about qualified in the field and that they will bring the scientific experience that will be required by the board to fulfill its mandate. So very careful wording has been chosen there, and I think it will serve the government well. It's important. I mean, it's very hard for me to sell this bill to anyone in the community when they say, well, who's on the science panel? And you say, oh, any old person, because that's what it says. Just has to be 8 people. Now, I understand that the minister has said, well, I'm going to make sure that they actually have a science background. Good for her, but once again, it has to be in the legislation, because she can change her mind, her successors can change their minds or never adhere to it. It needs to be in the legislation that scientists are on the Science Advisory Panel. I don't think I can put that any more plain or strongly.